Hi, today is Tuesday, March 14th, 2017. It's the second day of the third week of Lent, and this is A Swede Speaks. And I'm going to talk a little about what's going on in Sweden right now, because there are so many stories right now coming out. I can't really comment on them all, but I can give you an overview picture of what I'm seeing right now. What's going on, and what you're not supposed to say or do in Sweden, according to the mainstream media. I should know something about that. I mean, this channel is what you're not supposed to do according to the mainstream media. My close friend, the Furious Tory, is an example of how you're not supposed to act in Sweden if you want any chance to be employed, or well, if you don't want to lose your job, if you want to be able to have a career and not end up in some menial position, and so on. But anyway, I can mention a few of the things that has been going on in Sweden lately. In a little more than a year, 72 people have been shot in Stockholm. And a new phenomenon has been introduced to Sweden lately. Teenage boys being gang raped. Actually, the mainstream media calls this a new phenomenon. Did they forget what they said when Taharushka Mea first was introduced, and mostly Swedish girls were affected by this? Did they forget that they said that? But no, women had always been raped in Sweden, and the only explanation for this was that they reported it to a higher degree now. Well, yes. Women has sadly always been raped in Sweden. But Taharushka Mea is something new. You know, Taharushka Mea, it's the game where a bunch of guys or young men gang up around a girl and rape her. Actually, they do this with boys too. At least Afghans seem to like this. And this is something new in Sweden. But let's move on, because there are several other things going on that I think could be highlighted. Swedish police officers are now threatening to leave the force en masse. I mean, a lot of them, at the same time. There's a campaign site on the internet called Blåljus. It means blue lights. And they are campaigning for police officers to leave the force the same day, because they want better pay. They should have better pay, by the way. Sure, they're not starving, but they have a difficult job. They are not backed up by the Swedish society. And I need to get this message away so I won't get distracted. Good. And the Swedish police commissar Dan Eliasson, who I mentioned sometime, is a joke. A political commissar with no experience of real police work. I mean, sure, I'm not a policeman either, but I'm not the National Police Commissar of Sweden, but I bet I would do a better job than he is doing. And if I would be offered that position, let's just play with this idea for a moment. If they would call me and offer me this position, I would, first of all, I would refuse it. I would say that I don't have the knowledge. But if they would insist, I would accept it. I would say, I'll take half the pay you're giving Eliasson. And then, the other half of my pay, I want you to give to my assistant. And then I would get an assistant who would be an experienced policeman who had worked in the force for a long time. But let's move on. A man in Malmö, you know, the crime-ridden city in the south of Sweden, which is the neighboring city to Copenhagen and much more dangerous to Copenhagen, think about that, even though Copenhagen is bigger, was shot yesterday. I also saw something in Danish media about how the gang criminality in Malmö was spilling over on Copenhagen, and the gang wash in Malmö would also lead to gang wash in Copenhagen. But I'm starting to digress, so let's get back to... And of course, we have the cars burning all over Sweden. Lately, they have been burning in Södertälje, a medium-sized city about 40 kilometers. What would that be? 25, 30? 25-ish miles southwest of Stockholm. I actually lived there once for 10 months, but I lived in one of the better neighborhoods. So that was fine. I don't live there anymore though. And speaking of Södertälje, you remember who went there? Tim Pool went there, and he spoke to the mayor of Södertälje, who turned out to be the mayor of Södertälje is a major disaster. Sorry, I mean this pun intended, but he interviewed her and she was giving all the political correct stupidity about how Swedes went to America and now we should accept people coming to Sweden, etc., etc. Well, Swedes went to America to work. Swedes who went to America received 0 in welfare payments, at least back in the day, in the 1800s. And now I got a very nice message, and I won't say anything more about that because I think the person who sent it might get this pun. Anyway, I mean, you can't compare these situations. And Tim Pool has been highlighted by the mainstream media in Sweden now because they feel threatened. So there was an article and on Sveriges Radio, which means Sweden's radio. I just read the article. I didn't listen to the sound part because you could do that too, but I didn't want to get that annoyed. It was enough for me to read what they were writing, and they wrote that they called Tim Pool's journalism parachute journalism and said that was a threat to democracy. I don't understand that at all. Why would it be a threat to democracy if they don't like foreigners in that case. If a foreign journalist comes to Sweden and tries to figure out what's going on, why is this a threat to democracy? Shouldn't he be allowed to do that? Sure, you could discuss that, but I cannot see how this could be a threat to democracy. At the same time, the Swedish government thinks that it's a-okay that the Turkish politicians are coming to campaign for giving Mr. Erdogan more power. And the last thing, which is sort of stupid in one way, but I have to mention it anyway. And yeah, I know, I'm a Christian, so I don't really have this sort of humor anymore, but I still think that, come on. Paolo Roberto, who is a Swedish boxer, I think his father is Italian, that's where he's got his name from. His mother, I think, is Swedish, but that doesn't really matter. But anyway, he wrote something on Twitter on International Women's Day, a day that I don't celebrate, and I have no intention of starting to celebrate it. But anyway, he made a sexist joke. He wrote, you could think about who it's really sexist against. He wrote that boobs prove that men can focus on 2 things at once. Now think about this. Is this sexist against women, or is it sexist against men? And this tweet was taken up by a Swedish comedy show, or well, some kind of comedy and politics, and yeah. In America there's a lot of this, and it's coming to Sweden too. There's a show called Philip and Fredrik. And they had the leader of the Swedish Feminist Party, Feminist Initiative, and they showed this tweet and they reasoned about how terrible this was, and they even got some sort of so-called expert, not the leader of the Feminist Party, but some other so-called expert talking about women being raped and how this joke was leading to that someone else thought that it was okay to rape women. So, given everything I mentioned now, what's going on in Sweden, the murders, the shootings, the rape games, the cars burning, but what Swedish media, the mainstream media, is really annoyed at is a sexist joke and an American freelance reporter visiting Sweden. What can you say? Sweden is really an absurd country. And that's what I have to say about this right now. I would like to thank the people for supporting this channel through PayPal and through Patreon and through prayers. And if you like this channel, please subscribe so you don't miss anything. Please share my videos on social media. Please like my videos if you like them. If you got something to say, please comment. I will reply as much as I can. Yeah, and that's about it. Yeah, I think it is. So, this is A Swede Speaks. Have a nice day.